I think food is an amazing way to get to know people, and I think is a really great way to facilitate relationship and getting to know each other, because it doesn't matter where you're from, if your English is great, if you don't speak English, but food is something that everyone can relate to. My name is Marcella Finazzi, I'm Italian and I am 35 years old. I've been in this country for 4 years and 5 months, I think. I lived 3 years in Plymouth and then I moved to London. And then I moved back to Plymouth because London was a bit complicated. I decided to move to the UK because I wanted to learn English, because at school back in Italy I used to study French and I felt really bad because I couldn't speak any English. I was like, oh, you know what? I'm gonna challenge myself and I'm gonna move to the UK so I can start from scratch basically. So it was kind of a crazy choice, but I'm really happy. I'm really happy about that because I just jumped in the dark, if I can say that. At the beginning, because I come from a really welcoming and extrovert culture, I think, I felt like, whoa, like this here, I don't know how to explain, but I mean, people were nice and lovely, but in my mind, in my head, I assumed that the reaction would have been like Italian people, oh yeah, like this, and then you realize that it's not like that because there is a cultural difference, and then you try to, okay, kind of deal with that, live with that. I have adapted quite all right, let's say. There are some things that I totally agree with, like for instance, queuing. I love that. I love queuing and I think it's really cool. And it doesn't make any mess or chaos. So everyone is queuing. And as soon as you go back to Italy, it's like, woo! Like people are like, are not queuing. And I feel really British when I'm there. I'm like, really? And also another thing that is, you know, like British people always say, please, please, sorry, please, please, thank you, sorry, please, please. And at the beginning I was like, oh, come on, I understood. You don't have to tell me 100 times. But then now when I go back to Italy and someone doesn't say thank you or please, I'm like, excuse me? Is that difficult to say? I'm like, I'm shocked. And then I'm like, I've become British. One thing that I kind of kept from my culture is my accent, which is tricky because at the beginning, when I moved to this country, at the beginning, I didn't want to meet any Italian because my English wasn't there. I mean, I was like, hi, my name is Marcella, that's it. So I wanted to build that and was like, I want my English to be perfect, like English, like proper British accent, lovely, nobody's gonna understand that I'm Italian. And then I kind of understood through my learning process that I couldn't give up on my accent. And I was like, is that because it's a kind of identity thing that I'm Italian and that's obviously a massive part of me, even though I live in another country. So definitely my accent is really Italian. Well, for the moment it's like this, I cannot give up on that. Food for Italian people is massively important. When I see Italian restaurants here, I'm always a bit skeptic because, you know, I mean, there are not many, but there are some Italian chain restaurants, and I think they're a bit they pretend to be Italian. And it's something that I understand because obviously you need to make your customer happy, so maybe you cannot create something too specific because you don't know if it's going to be okay for them. But at the same time, I think Italian food is so amazing already that you don't have to put other stuff. Like in this country, you find things like garlic bread. Never heard about garlic bread in Italy, or spaghetti bolognese. Spaghetti bolognese is like it hurts my body every time I see that name, because we don't have spaghetti bolognese in Italy. We have bolognese, which is a topping for pasta, which is ragu, which is minced meat and tomato. I mean, I'm not gonna give you the recipe, but if you want, I can. But you know, it's like there is this idea. Ah, yes, I cook spaghetti bolognese every time, and on purpose, I ask, right, what do you put in your spaghetti bolognese? And then they tell me, ah, yes, tomato sauce, mushroom, and like, what? I mean, why? Why? That's absolutely nothing about bolognese ragu. And we don't have spaghetti with bolognese ragu. We have tagliatelle or other stuff, but not spaghetti. Spaghetti carbonara. Another thing, spaghetti carbonara. I remember I went to my friend's house and I was like, all right, I'm gonna cook carbonara for you. And she was like, oh yes, great, great. And carbonara is really easy. It's like pancetta or guanciale, no, pancetta, eggs, raw eggs, no cream, no, and parmesan or pecorino, I don't remember now. And as soon as I got there, she was like, oh, maybe we can put mushroom. Maybe rocket as well. I was like, oh well, why not baked beans then? I mean, that's not a carbonara, and I get really, really passionate about that, you know. I mean, and I'm like, why do you need to change something that is so perfect already? Why do you need to add cheese and bacon, for instance, in everything? My culture doesn't need this fusion. I take it I mean, obviously, if I go to someone's house and they cook pasta with a random sauce, I mean, with a sauce for their idea of bolognese, I'm okay. Well, usually, when people invite you for dinner, they don't cook Italian because you're Italian. They say, no, she must be like a master chef in Italian food, which is, no, I'm not like a master chef. But, you know, they tend to cook something else, which is nice. Like, I think it's kind of a respect thing. But obviously, if someone cooks like lasagna or anything Italian, I'm okay. I mean, I'm not gonna be, let me get my note, 0. Two weeks ago, I decided to make something that made me feel at home, because I mean it's weird, but there are some flavors and some food that brings you to kind of another time, another moment. So it's like comfort food, but it's like a specific kind of comfort, I would say. In terms of ingredients, I don't find it difficult to find them here. It depends what you're looking for. But for example, if you go to like medium big supermarket, you can find good pasta brand from Italy. So that's because they don't cook like super specific Italian food. I find pretty much everything. When I want to have something specific, I just make it up from scratch. Or the other thing is like, which is really funny, my parents send me parcels from Italy, and usually, well, when they send like a big parcel, usually there is wine, cheese, like local, organic from there. Or sometimes they send me random stuff, like, well, biscuits, like Italian biscuits, or like jam that maybe my mom made. It's important to me having access to this food because it reminds me of memories in Italy, of like specific moments in Italy. But also, now that I'm with Edward, it's a nice way to share my culture through something that we both love and we are passionate about. So, for instance, ages ago, they sent me this specific pasta called the pizzoccheri, which is from a specific area in North Italy. It's really nice. It's really like comfort food. So for me, it's nice being able to share this with him because there is always a story behind the food. And as I said many times, it's like part of my culture. So you can learn about my culture through this specific food that I'm definitely sure you cannot find in this area because it's like really specific. I never cooked pasta from scratch. I never made the pasta from scratch until a month ago because, in Italy, you go to the supermarket and you can find nice pasta, and I come from a family that never made pasta from scratch. They mainly made like gnocchi from scratch, but not pasta. It's not difficult, but it takes lots of practice. So the funny thing about the pasta factor is that every time I've met someone and they said that I was Italian, they were like, so you must make pasta every Sunday. And no, because it's a pain. Because it takes a bit to make pasta, and you need to make it nice, not like chewy pasta. But because of that, I started to think about that, and I started to think about the stereotype. So I want to create a project based on pasta and stereotypes and diversity. So like the fact that I'm Italian and I never made pasta is a kind of strong kind of statement, because it's like, I thought because you were Italian you would make pasta. No, not really. So it's interesting to start a kind of conversation around that topic, especially at this time in history, where apparently we are really scared of diversity and that's the enemy, and it's not really like that. I think that we need to do like more than one step back and say, okay, how did we get there, and what are we missing? And I think the thing that we are really missing is the relationship between like human beings. So my idea is that food is an amazing starting point for like conversations and relationships, and it's something that I really want to work on. Because if I'm gonna live in this place for like a long time, what kind of city I'd like to live in? So like, okay, what can I do with my small part? What can I do to improve this situation? One thing that I'd like to see in Plymouth would be less events like for specific group, like, Black minorities event, the Italians event, the French event, the Asian event, but something that gather more. So it's like, okay, let's not divide. It's really important that you meet up with your culture, I think. But I think it's also important to share things together, so you can see that there are not many differences between people. So yes, more like situation where people from different countries can share their experiences or the food, anything basically, yes.